I find is very important. Also, the rep has a very keen interest in single parents, and as a single mother, I personally have gained from what she has done to help single parents. For example, she provided MiFi for all children who had no internet, which was very good for me because I had to be putting plan on my phone all the time because I had no internet. So my child could have done her schoolwork and make me proud and be an A+ student. I am staying with Auntie Gail.
As a result, we are going to establish a Grocery Credit Union to incorporate the Fishermen's Cooperative, the farmers, and all and sundry
can benefit from having a credit union. Agriculture program, also develop our fishing. Youthing agriculture, as I mentioned earlier, is very important.
I'm going to ensure that we have a home for the elderly.
A daycare for our elderly and ensure that our elderly is well taken care of.
Whoa! Copycat alert.
You serious?
No, let's keep working. Let's keep moving.
Moi, je remercie M. Ezekiel Joseph pour tout ça qu'il a fait en communauté. Côte là, chimie, community center, de l'eau, tout ça qu'il a fait, je remercie en chai. Even si je ne travaille pas, je vais déposer ça. Je remercie un peu pour ça.
We're happy that Mr. Birch will be able to serve us to the extent and serve us very well, which I see to myself that's someone that will be able to work for us.
Mr. Birch, I am wishing you the best of luck in the upcoming election. We love you, we are there with you, we are supporting you. And what can I say? I wish the United Workers' Party all the best in that election.
Thank you, Butch. Thank you, my Prime Minister. We all love you. Yes. You have a vision, God give it to you. Yes. And you is the best Prime Minister we ever get in St. Lucia. Yes. Thank you.
Mr. Montwood has done a lot for his constituency. In terms of education, I feel like Mr. Montwood has done a great job. He has supplied his constituency with supplies to go back to school, notebooks, pens, paper. Also, he gives backpacks to the students of the communities. On that note, I feel Mr. Montwood should be re-elected again.
Let's keep working. Let's keep moving. Let's keep working.
I'm a site technician, so my job entails checking and verifying all the work that happens on site, taking our reports, pictures, and ensuring that everyone is placed in the right areas for work.
I'm Brad Augustine. I'm from Abdelang Miku. I've been working there from since October till now. I came in as a laborer. I'm an apprentice for masonry. You know, the job is kind of good because it's been a long time since I had a job, and you know, Auntie Gail has proven people wrong, and she's given, you know, constituency work to do. So I'm very happy to be working. Yeah, the development of the Miku Smart Block. You know, I find it very interesting because my son is writing common entrance. and he will be given a chance to do much more than I have done, because I've been attending Micoud Secondary School. I've attended Micoud Secondary School, and also I wanted my son to attend it too because of the technologies that have increased. So I think that Smart Blog is a very important and very good opportunity for the young kids around and the young generation.
Yeah, my name is Zane Fanis. Yeah, I work as a laborer here. Yeah, but I do different stuff like, you know, electrician. I take part in different stuff, and yeah, I've been learning. Yeah, although it's been tougher, but I've been learning doing the job. Yeah, and I appreciate the job.
My name is Hans Vitalis, and I'm a consultant on the project of the Micoud Secondary School. I work with the company teams, and we are building the Micoud Secondary School Smart Block, which started on June 18th of 2020. Presently, we are about 80% completed. We are now waiting for our doors and windows to be installed, whilst plastering continues at the back of the building. Priming and painting on the first floor has already begun, and basically that's where we are.
St. Lucia, join me, Nancy Charles, every Wednesday evening from 8 to 10 p.m. on Sky FM 93.1 and GVD TV channel 115 for Vibes.
Hello, St. Lucia. Welcome. You know, if it's Wednesday and it's 8 o'clock, then Nancy Charles is in the house. And tonight we're gonna vibe. So I trust that everybody had a wonderful week last week and that you are doing well tonight and you're ready for a little bit of excitement this evening. I want to start this evening, St. Lucia. It's been a little bit distressing for me in particular over the last couple of days. And not that it is anything different per se, but I think we have gotten to the point where, as we usually say, it's the silly season. And most of you who know me by now know that I am a political person. I subscribe to the views of the United Workers' Party. However, every opportunity that I get, and especially on this program, I have repeatedly told you that my role is to ensure that I give you facts, information that you can perhaps go with and use to clarify when you hear persons are saying the wrong thing. And so over the last couple of days, I think it has gotten to the point where sometimes I find myself having to shake my head in disbelief that some of the things that I am hearing and some of the things that are coming out, that it is unbelievable. So, repeat a lie often enough and it becomes the truth. That is a law of propaganda often attributed to the Nazi Joseph Goebbels. And over the last few years, we've heard a lot of lies and misinformation. However, we have a responsibility, every single one of us, when we get a platform, to speak facts and truth, because I can certainly tell you that people will not continue. They may believe you initially, but they will not continue to follow you if all you continue to feed them is untruths and misinformation. I believe that over the last couple of years, since you've known me as a public figure, that we have gotten to the point where you have had a level of trust in the information that I give you. And to me, I think our opponents or persons who are of a different political ideology should do the same. That they develop a relationship of trust based on facts and information. But we should never seek to misinform persons. We should never seek to feed people lies. We should never seek to deliberately withhold information just because we have our differences or our various biases. False information many times is given to persons or is fed or is spread out there to fool people because we want people sometimes to believe us and so that they can eventually follow us. But my show tonight, I would like to dedicate a little bit of my show tonight to fact check information that has been given to you and that has been fed to the public, and to give you what the real truth of that information is. We've had a lot of talk show hosts over the last couple of weeks, and even some media houses who have also carried some of the stories. And some of them have made serious allegations. There are allegations about individuals, there are allegations against the government, there are allegations against the cabinet of ministers. And a lot of these, as I said, are allegations, and that is because there is no proper documentation to show that what is being shown or fed out there is truth or factual. And a lot of that is coming from people who know better. A lot of it is coming from people who wants to put themselves up for public office. A lot of it is coming from people who wants the public to see them in a particular light or in a particular way as being believable. But I can certainly tell you that many times, and I have proven to you over and over again when I come here, that a lot of the information is being withheld deliberately. And I say deliberately because I know for a fact that all the information in most instances is available to those individuals, but they are very selective in what they show, in what they produce, and in how they speak about certain things, so that they deliberately withhold facts and truth from you so that you will believe and take a particular slant on an issue. And so, again, I will continue, St. Lucia, to educate you. I will continue to give you information and show you what I am talking about when I speak to you. And so tonight, I want to speak a little bit about fact-checking and giving correct information. So we will take a break, and when we come back, we will go into some substantive matters that has been spoken about and that we will be fact-checking tonight. So welcome to Vibes. We will take a break and we will be right back.
Mr. Montwood has done a lot for his constituency. In terms of education, I feel like Mr. Montwood has done a great job. He has supplied his constituency with supplies to go back to school, notebooks, pens, paper. Also, he gives backpacks to the students of the communities. On that note, I feel Mr. Montwood should be re-elected again.
Let's keep working, let's keep moving, let's keep working.
A Labour Party government would not have a convicted criminal in its cabinet.
You, Dr. Kenny Anthony, you are a pathological, compulsive, blatant liar, deceiver.
These are the reasons why the US would revoke a US diplomatic visa. Terrorist activity, drug trafficking, human trafficking, money laundering. Which one of these applies to Richard Frederick?
A Labour government would not have a drug baron in its cabinet.
Kenny, tonight I call you. a categorical, compulsive, pathetic, categorical liar.
Tell Richard Frederick to stay in his section.
Welcome back, St. Lucia. Thank you for staying with me. I trust that during the break you sent a WhatsApp message to your friend, to your family, to your neighbor to say, hey, turn on your television to GVD Television, station 115, and to let them know that Nancy Charles is on with another program, very informative program tonight. I'm hoping tonight is also going to be very exciting for you. As I've always said to you, pull out your pen and paper, make sure you have something to write on, just in case you may forget some of the information I'm giving you, that you will note it down and you can say on this particular program, on this particular date, this is the information Nancy Charles gave us with this matter. Before the break, I spoke to you about the impact of giving people facts and also the impact of giving people misinformation. And I know, for example, for sure that we're not living in an ideal world, so I do not expect that people who differ perhaps to others will always speak the truth or will always give the truth. But you expect that there are certain things that people can certainly speak the truth on, and you don't really have to lie about it. And if you think that it is not to your advantage, maybe it is best that you say nothing. And over the last couple of months, we've heard from members of the opposition, we've heard from persons that say, these people not doing nothing. And sometimes I shake my head in amazement because I'm saying the evidence is quite clear, it's there for everybody to see. And to say because nothing means absolutely nothing. If you are not satisfied with the level of works and what the government has done, please say so. It is your right to say so. But to come out and say, you're poor here, you're poor here, of course you and I both know that's not the truth. So when it comes to national security, we keep hearing that crime is at an all-time high. We've never seen crime like this in St. Lucia, etc., etc. And I thought tonight that perhaps let's discuss the issue of national security, because that's what it's called. And I want St. Lucians to remember that crime is not only about murders or shootings. Crime is very holistic in its nature. I think we all know that there are a number of things that contribute to the rise or the increase in crime in a country, in a society, in a community. And I think every single one of us can agree that it takes the entire nation, every single one of us, to put our shoulders to the wheel, to make up our mind in whichever way that we can to contribute towards the development and the holistic national security of our country, to ensure that crime in all aspects of it can go down. Tonight, I want to deal with national security, ORC, Operation Restore Confidence, and the easing of restrictions of the Leahy Law in the first segment of my program. In the second segment, we will deal with some matters that has been out there in the media for the last couple of days, but I don't want to dedicate too much time for this. I just think that the information I will give you will just kill this thing once and for all. You will see for yourself and you'll be like, oh my God, I don't believe that's what this is about. That's what is the truth about this matter. And then we will be done with it. However, I just want to take you back, St. Lucia, that when this government came into office in 2016, we inherited a number of problems with reference to our national security. I think first and foremost and at the top of the agenda was the issue of, everybody call it impacts or the impacts report or ORC, Operation Restore Confidence, and the fact that the United States had put some restrictions on St. Lucia accessing and being able to participate in US paid government training or other aspect of national security. And that is what we call the Leahy Law. It's a law in the United States that speaks to the United States withholding support, whether it be financial or technical support, to countries who they think have breached certain aspects of their law or certain aspects of their standards, should I say. That was looming over the head of the police officers, and I'm sure some of you remember at the time, a number of police officers it was alleged, there were allegations made about them. There were a number of police officers who had either had their visas revoked or who had either been informed by the United States government that even whilst they held a valid US visa, they could not travel to the United States. And all of that had to do with the famous, what we call, impacts. Over the weekend, I was correcting somebody to say that this really had nothing to do with impacts, but everybody knows it as impacts. So for now, we will just call it that. But when we came into government, our police stations were in a deplorable state. You had the buildings where the paint was peeling off. You had broken windows, ACs not working. You had mold infestation in a lot of the police stations. In particular, the Viewfort police station, we all know that was the boastful of the previous administration, how they had built how many police stations all around the island. But you would see and appreciate that there was no maintenance of any of these structures. So they were in a deplorable condition. The forensic lab as well, which was also a newly built institution, was closed. You had mold infestation, leaking roof. There were allegations of evidence being contaminated. And we were spending millions of dollars, St. Lucia. Millions of dollars. We had a forensic lab that was there. But there we were, instead of spending that millions of dollars to fix the lab and to fix the problem, it served us better at the time to spend millions of dollars, spending that too, and sending our money to foreign countries so that they can test the various samples of evidence that we took here in St. Lucia. In many instances, it took months for them to process those evidence and to send it back to us. And because of that, you had a lot of persons who were alleged, who were charged, or who were being held on remand. And whilst you're waiting for the evidence, it took so long sometimes. These charges had to be discharged, for lack of a better word. You had to release them because you didn't have sufficient evidence. And so a lot of potential offenders, because of those timelines and because of lack of proper evidence, had to be let go. And so you had them roaming the streets. They were committing their crimes. You had no evidence and you had to let them go. You have no choice. And we had a forensic lab that we could easily have spent some money on, but it was closed. This was also very discouraging to our police officers who were investigating those various crimes, because you would find that they would put time and effort, get the evidence and put everything together, and then it takes months and weeks and in some cases even years for them to get back results for those evidence. And so it's like, you know, St. Lucia, ça pas about go. So c'est un police, ou pas ni go pour investiguer pour voir rien, because ou pas une pièce result. And that is where the police officers were at that time. You had a lot of rape cases that were not being resolved. And I also, if you remember at the time, there was an increase in rapes happening in the country. And I clearly remember, because that was one of the things we criticized the then Kenney administration for, Kenny Anthony himself at a public meeting on a political platform said that we have quote-unquote rapists roaming our midst, roaming our streets, roaming our country, etc., etc. He was admitting to that problem, and he was prime minister at the time, and yet still he was admitting to that problem and doing nothing about it. we had no radar system. And so, St. Lucia, those of you who probably don't understand what this means, it means that you have a system that is in place to monitor activities happening out on the ocean, out on the seas. Who is coming in, where vessels are coming from, what type of craft is entering into our waters, etc. And I'm sure a lot of us would know that a lot of illegal activities would be taking place on the seas. And so that radar system is to monitor that and to alert the police in terms of what is happening on the waters to ensure that we can secure and to protect our borders. So whoever wanted to come in could come. Whenever they wanted to come in, they came, because we had no radar system. And like a popular talk show host normally say, Kileska Gadle Gad. Who is guarding our shores? Who was guarding our shores at that time? You also had an issue with the marine vessels who were supposed to be out there on the oceans, patrolling the seas, patrolling the waters. Kisa, engine by la machi. Ada se bay la machi engine, ada se bay la just te bwizen ti repairs, an bay te kwaze pou wonje. Say, gouvernement pate sa fe. And so you had all these marine vessels just sitting there, missing engine, need a little fix up, need this and that, whatever, need certain parts and so forth. They couldn't fix that. And so you have pressure on the one or the two marine vessels that were in operation. They were taking turns, I suppose, because one day that one down, one day they fix it, the other day that one down. That's what was happening within our police force and national security. And then you had, because of the Leahy restriction on our police force, a lot of our officers, or none of our officers, could access the training that the United States government, in collaboration with perhaps other country, was providing. And so our officers were not being trained. They couldn't participate in those training. So new technologies, new investigative tips, new things that are happening, they could not participate. They're not part of it. We also had a situation where the country could not purchase ammunition because once these ammunitions were being produced by quote-unquote U.S. agencies or U.S. companies, then St. Lucia, because of the Leahy restriction, could not purchase. Nou pata gen bullet St. Lucia, nou pata gen pièce bay police te bouizen in terms of guns and things like that. We couldn't buy it. We couldn't get access to it once they were American-made. And so you had St. Lucia looking all over the place, all countries, you know, who would be willing to sell and assist them in that regard. And so you had a country that was very, very vulnerable. You had a country that was very open. You had lack of proper courthouses. A lot of the courthouses were not, you didn't have sufficient space. The judges and the magistrates were complaining. And so many times you had court had to be adjourned because of leaking roof, of one problem after another. And so that also created a huge backlog in the court cases. And people became frustrated with the justice system because every day the judges adjourn, etc. And so you had that cesspool that was boiling in terms of what you call national security. This is what this Alan Chastanet administration inherited in June 2016 when they came into office. So it was not an easy task. There were no easy solutions, but I can certainly tell you, today you see me smiling, I can smile because I think we have made more than a dent in national security, in the improvement of national security in this country. So, what did we do? What did this government do when it came into office and inherited all those issues? And there were more. I don't want to bore you with all of it. I'm sure the police officers who are listening to me tonight may be sending messages and say, well, that too, and that too, and you'll get the list goes on and on and on. It was just a government, in my opinion, and I am saying this is my opinion, based on what we inherited, who just did not care with national security. And a little later, I will tell you why. Because the evidence is very clear. It is very clear in the statements that were made by the then Prime Minister at the time, the allegations and the accusations that he made at the time shows you clearly that he did not care about national security, nor the police officers or the firemen who are the people securing us as a country. So, what did we do? When we came into office, St. Lucia, we immediately set to repair the forensic lab. I think a lot of the issues with the forensic lab was attributed to the roof and perhaps some of the issues with water seeping through. And so it created a lot of moldy conditions. And so you did not have an environment within the forensic lab where it was sterile enough for them to process any evidence in that area. I don't think it took us $2 or $3 million to fix it, St. Lucia. It didn't take us so much money to fix it. But we did. We hired competent persons. They fixed the roof. They fixed the problems that was affiliated internally with the forensic lab. And in addition to that, we hired professional persons who were professionals in the areas of forensic. St. Lucians, nous pas mener gens l'autre pays, nous pas mener gens l'autre bord. St. Lucians who were highly trained, and they are still there, who are working in that forensic lab, we brought them in and got the forensic lab back to operation. I'm sure some of you would recall the ceremony when we had the reopening of the forensic lab to show St. Lucia that what could not be done, then we were able to do it now. And so today, I am very proud to say that I spoke to the director of the forensic lab, and that the lab is currently on its way to international accreditation, ISO accreditation. They are working their way towards that. They have put certain things in place. And so very soon, St. Lucia can be very proud to say that we have a certified or accredited laboratory, forensic lab in St. Lucia. When we came in, we had a huge backlog of cases as well at the forensic lab in terms of testing and evidence, etc. And to that, I am proud to say that 92% of that backlog has been cleared. And among them are rape kits and allegations of persons who were accused of rape, and you had all these things sitting there. A lot of that has been cleared, and so you've had a few more persons who have been charged for rape, and that is because of the testing capacity of the forensic lab. So we are no longer spending millions of dollars to foreign labs, whereas we have the capacity in St. Lucia to do some of that work. There are certain things we're still not able to do as yet, and we are working towards that, but I am very proud, and I want to say to this government that I am very proud of the stance that we took to immediately restore the forensic lab. The forensic lab is also preparing to conduct ballistic testing. Setli si sa yo ka di la moun shoot et yo vle sav ki les gon ki te servi pou shoot moun sa, so yo ni ba yo ka test ek lab la ka kontine pou gade tout suite nou ka sa fè sa Setli si aussi. So very soon the forensic lab would be able to do ballistic testing here, and so we are really praying and hoping that everything goes well and that we will get to that capacity. So there is a lot of progress happening in the forensic lab, and even to the point that when we were at our highest point with our COVID response management, and we had our backlog of PCR testing, the forensic lab was able to get themselves in a position where they could have assisted us in PCR testing with reference to COVID. So St. Lucia, this is one, I'm just going to highlight a few things tonight, but this is one of the things I think we are very proud that we were able to do upon assuming office, to have a forensic lab that was closed and we have it up and running. In terms of our radar system, I know that the government of St. Lucia has been working very closely with the government of Trinidad and Tobago, and they have been working with St. Lucia to assist us in resolving our issues with reference to our radar system. And so for now, I can say to you, St. Lucia, that our borders are no longer as porous as they used to be. Is it 100%? Can you 100% secure the borders in St. Lucia? I don't know. I'm not a professional. I cannot tell you yes or no. But I can certainly tell you that at this point in time, we're at the point where the radar system is back up and running. So, under the previous administration, but not right now. And in addition to that, to tie into our border security, we purchased 10 engines, St. Lucia, 10 engines for the vessels, for the Marine Police that were down. We purchased those engines to get more marine vessels up and running to ensure that the staff of the Marine Police would have the vessels that they require to be able to patrol our seas. And they don't only patrol in terms of illegal activities, but we do know that fishing in St. Lucia is also one of the areas that we depend heavily on, and our fishermen go out to sea every day, and the Marine Police also provide a critical role in ensuring that they can provide that level of security in case some of them are lost at sea, etc. Our Marine Police would provide additional support in ensuring that we can bring our fishermen safe back home. So it was important for them to have vessels. Can you imagine fishermen having boats? They have all kinds of things on the boat, they're going out to sea, and the Marine Police does not have a boat, or did not have boats, so that they could go out and secure our borders. That was the state that we were in. But St. Lucia, I want to tell you that we have restored that. In terms of the police, we purchased additional vehicles for them. Tous les jours, police station, you can do pani machine. And so this was an immediate need of the police officers. And so this government, again, we came in and we purchased additional vehicles, and we also purchased additional bikes. So you would see a lot more police officers are patrolling our streets and our communities on bikes to ensure that perhaps at the time where a vehicle cannot go, you now have our police officers on bikes patrolling our country to keep our citizens safe. And so that is another response that the government acceded to ensure that we can improve on our national security. So the police got more vehicles, and they also got more motorbikes. Do they need more? Yes, I think they've said they need some more. Minister of National Security, if you're listening, I'm making a little bid for you. So Prime Minister, the Minister for National Security has indicated, thank you very much for what you've given him, but they still need a little bit more. But Minister, one day at a time, pity, piam, you'll get some more soon, okay? In terms of our police station tonight, I just want to say thank you very much to a wonderful lady. Never before in the history of St. Lucia have you had such participation from what we term, or what we quote, or who we quote, our First Lady. Now, I'm telling you, she really doesn't like to be called that. She would prefer us to call her by her name, which is Mrs. Raquel Duboulé-Chasney. She's the wife of the Prime Minister. But when we came into office, Mrs. Chasney felt that there was a role that she could play in providing support to the government as well. And she didn't think that she just wanted to be termed and to be known as just the wife of the Prime Minister. She wanted to play her role in developing our country. And so she put up this wonderful foundation called the Make It Happen Foundation. And every year we had these annual charity events, these balls that she put these events, fundraising events. And trust me, I can tell you, the Labour Party, they criticize that too. St. Lucia, you know already. You take a critique to buy. Even a fundraising activity, mon Dieu, you criticize. But we are so grateful for the participation of many St. Lucians who came. They participated in those fundraising activities, and through the wife of the Prime Minister and her foundation, I can tell you a number of police stations and fire stations. There were other charities as well that she gave money to, but tonight I'm focusing on national security. And so you had a lot of painting. Some of them got a facelift. They were painted, you know, just a nice fresh coat of paint in these police stations. Change a few windows, some doors, fix the bathrooms. I mean, come on, St. Lucia. I mean, it was deplorable to see the state of some of the washrooms in some of those police stations. If the workstation where these officers are working is in such a deplorable state, you know, you don't have no taste to come to work, because it's like you're going into a depressing environment. And so the wife of the Prime Minister sought to just give a little bit, boost the morale of the police officers, give them a better working environment. And so she did painting of some of those police stations. Gym equipment was provided in some instances. So the officers, I don't know if it's a hint they were throwing at your officers to say some of you really need to go to the gym, but I'm sure some of you appreciated it. Gym equipment was given. New kitchen and kitchen appliances were provided as well. You know, put cupboards, put a little electric kettle and a little microwave and a little toaster oven, you know, just these little things. So, you know, you come to work with your lunch or with a sandwich or something and you want to warm it up, you want to have some coffee or some tea, just these basic little things, you know, the wife of the Prime Minister provided to ensure that we can boost the morale of our hard working officers. And so tonight, I want to say publicly, on behalf of every St. Lucian, not the government, but on behalf of every St. Lucian, I want to say thank you very much, Mrs. Shasney, for your hard work, for your resolve, for your effort in taking on that cause, in taking on our police officers, our firemen, the people who provide security to our country, and the other charities that you've also donated to as well. But we thank you so much, because as we all know, sometimes in life, it is the little things that matters. Sometimes the big things matter too, but sometimes it is the little things that matter, right? And so we continued along in terms of our progress, and we fixed some of the courthouses. I'm sure some of you remember the Naraya Court. Is that how it is pronounced? I think we spent quite a bit of money in fixing, uplifting, you know, creating the dedicated and the proper spacing that are required by the magistrates and the judges to ensure they had a comfortable work environment and to dispense justice. And so I'm sure that helped a lot in ensuring that you now had the cases being called and you did not have too many and so many adjournments. And so we spent the money where it mattered. For the first time, St. Lucia, for the first time in the history of St. Lucia, we now have a parole system. And the parole system, I think the legislation for the parole system has been in our books since the criminal code came into effect in 2005. From 2005, we've had this criminal code, and there's been there's been the rationale for us to have a parole system. But it took this government to put the necessary structures in place. We put in a parole board, we hired parole officers, we provided the necessary training to those officers, and some of you would have heard that the board has been meeting, and we've now been able to ensure that persons who meet the criteria would be allowed to go home on parole. You don't want to be keeping people inside a prison all the time when there are other ways and means of ensuring that you can dispense justice. So I am also very proud of this government for instituting a parole system in St. Lucia. In terms of crime, St. Lucia, I want to say to you that the police has, over the last few years, been now using statistics and data to drive and to analyze our crime management. And so it is not a wake up every morning, what do we do today, etc., etc. There is a system now that the police use on a daily, on a weekly, on a monthly, and an annual basis. They are tracking and they are monitoring the various aspects of crime. So you have robbery, you have abuse, you have shootings, you have murders, you have all different, you have house burglary, you have all different kinds of activities happening. And I can say to you in general, whilst we have an issue with firearm that is on the increase, we've had a general reduction in other areas of crime such as robbery, etc., when we compare the annual statistics from 2018, 2019, 2020 coming down the line. So we can certainly say that we are still very concerned. I am very concerned. St. Lucia still needs to be concerned about the fact that we still have a high rate of gun violence in St. Lucia. But I am also saying to the police that job well done, some of the strategies that you have implemented, and that is due to the analysis that you do, the data collection, the sitting down, the various meetings and discussions that you are having, and being more strategic in your crime fighting. We have seen a reduction in other areas of serious crime. And so we are not only focused, St. Lucia, as a government on the infrastructure when it comes to national security, but I can tell you that the government is also focused on the human resource development, the trainings that are being proposed for the various officers, the different activities and the different aspects of crime management that deals with the human resource. There's new facilities that have been given to the police officers, the traffic department, and where they've been relocated. And so it is a holistic development towards crime. And so tonight, St. Lucia, it's now your turn. I think the government has done a very good job in terms of some of the developments and some of the things that we have done. But we as citizens of this country must also play our part and see how we can assist the police in terms of our crime fighting and in helping to reduce crimes and serious crimes in St. Lucia. I think all of us know what we have to do. I don't have to remind you as to what we have to do when it comes to our role in the reduction of crime fighting, but St. Lucia, we must do our part. So I think I have given you quite a bit of information in terms of some of the things. Not all, I cannot list all, time does not permit it, but I thought that it was important to remind you of some of the things that this government has done with reference to national security. So we will take a break, but when we come back, we will speak to two other issues in terms of national security, and that has to do with border control, and we will speak to the good news that we received last week with reference to the U.S.-St. Lucia relations when it comes to the Leahy Law. So we will take a break and we will be right back. Stay with us.
Real estate transactions are now made easy. Whether buying, selling, or renting residential, commercial, industrial, agricultural, or touristic property, we offer the best deals in real estate transactions with professional support, including valuation, material sourcing, and construction. Contact Ed Harris and Associates, your courteous and efficient real estate agents. Call 485-1456 or email caribbiz@gmail.com.
It's blazing and it's hot. Come join the United Workers' Party National Women's Arm as they present to you barbecue, grab and go, flubbo fire, chicken $12, fish and pork $15 plus more. Friday, June 25th, outside Sky FM Studios, 2 p.m. onwards, drinks on sale. This is located conveniently at the Colony House, John Compton Highway. As I said, it's blazing hot. Barbecue, grab and go.
Okay, welcome back, St. Lucia. I was told by my producer to remind you, you just saw the ad. It's a fundraising barbecue this weekend, so take a little time. Remember, we have curfew still in effect, so you can't stay too late. But my producers have said that if I want the show to continue, I need to remind you of the barbecue. So come, please support and provide some support to this barbecue that we're having. Okay. Before the break, I told you that when we come back, we would speak to another progress that we've made in terms of our national security, and that has to do with the Border Control and the Border Control Agency. Now, what is a Border Control Agency and why would the government want to institute a Border Control Agency? In a nutshell, if I summarize it for you, St. Lucia, when we came into government, the Prime Minister looked at all the different agencies that speaks to securing our borders. And you have some of these agencies, they are set apart and they're not working in sync in many instances and collaborating in terms of the effort. So you have Customs, for example, who's a big part of our border control, but Customs is under the Ministry of Finance, for example, and so they report to the Ministry of Finance. You have our quarantine aspect of border control in terms of plant and animal that comes into the country. That is also an issue in terms of our border control, but this facility resides with the Ministry of Agriculture, for example. And then you have the Marine Police, you have immigration, and these are housed with national security. And so you've had a lot of countries who've done it. We're not reinventing the wheel, and it's not something that is unique or new to St. Lucia. But the proposal by the Prime Minister was, how do we consolidate? Because you have all these agencies, they are working on the different agencies. How do we consolidate and bring them together? All of them have the same, more or less, role, and that has to do with securing our border. And let's look at other countries who have done it. We can use them as a model and put together this model to have a border control agency in St. Lucia. Now, when the issue first came up, the government reached out to both the US government and the British government in assisting us in putting together a border control agency. I am very pleased to say that both the US, in spite of the Leahy restrictions, and the British government came through and provided assistance to St. Lucia in putting together the Border Control Agency. The British government provided, in the first instance, consultancy services. So they gave us a technical person who was here in St. Lucia for a little over a year, who came in and assisted us in putting the structures, doing the consultancy, looking at all the agencies, putting all the documentation and everything together in order to ensure that we would have a structure that suits us. And so he looked at other models out there, even with the British model as well, and other countries, and to put a structure. So we are very grateful to the British government. In addition to that, we also got grant funding from the British government in terms of a consultant in putting together the legislation for the border control. And we want to say thank you very much again to the British government for that support. And they also provided another set of grant funding, millions of dollars, to assist us in purchasing a border control management system. So all in all, we've been provided with those technical and financial support from those agencies. Unfortunately, the United States was not able to provide us with financial support, but they did collaborate with the British government in providing technical support in assisting us in putting together a border control agency. And so the draft legislation is there. I'm sure that very soon hopefully right after the elections, after we have won the elections, of course, we will begin the second phase of consultations, because the first phase of consultations was held. I have to say thank you very much. I wrote it down because I did not want to forget. I have to say thank you very much to the Attorney General's chambers, as I've said, both the British and the US government, customs and the customs officials who worked with the government on this project, the Department of Agriculture, the staff of the delivery unit, and as I said, the delivery unit, St. Lucia. I'm sure you heard a particular former prime minister criticizing and asking what is the role of the delivery unit. I will get to that perhaps in another show, but just in a nutshell, I want to let you know that this is one of the hardest working units that I have had the privilege to work directly with. And so you have a lot of government agencies who are working, who are doing what they have to do, but the delivery unit in particular, whose role is to work with those government agencies, and they've been doing a phenomenal job, a fantastic job of working with the other government agencies, working with ministries, with department heads. They've developed a wonderful relationship with them in ensuring that government can successfully implement what is key and is priority to them. And so one of those is the border control, and I do want to thank the staff of the delivery unit for their support in that. The marine unit, we want to thank them. Immigration, and also the unions. We had a lot of back and forth with the unions. I'm pretty sure you remembered a time when customs officials either had threatened or wanted to go on strike because of the border control, and everybody thought they were going to lose their jobs, etc., etc. I'm very pleased that we've had consultations with the unions as well. And so in the second phase of the consultation, the draft legislation will be presented so that we can move ahead in implementing a border control agency. So St. Lucia, we are looking, and that is going to redound in cost savings for us. You're going to now have everybody with the same focus on the one head, one unit. I want to say nobody's going to lose their job. I want to guarantee you that as well, because you know these rumors spread. As soon as people hear something fresh and something new, they automatically think that people will lose their jobs. That is not going to happen, but I am hoping that we will be implementing a successful border control agency to ensure that we can strengthen our border in St. Lucia. And then the next thing I want to speak about is the update on impacts. St. Lucia, I saw a press release a few weeks ago coming from the St. Lucia Labour Party, and the title or the press release spoke to the SLP asking the government to provide an update on impacts. When I saw that, because I thought the audacity of the St. Lucia Labour Party in asking this government to give an update on impacts. I don't know if they think that we have forgotten that it was alleged and that persons have their suspicions that it was the Labour Party or operatives of the Labour Party who had reported that there were extrajudicial killings in St. Lucia. And that is how this whole thing came about. Allegations being made by operatives of political parties just because they wanted to win an election. Y'all remember that, St. Lucia? Because remember, ORC happened in 2010. Impacts came about a few years later, 2013. So they had won the election, and everything to do with impacts happened under the previous administration. So I think if anybody had to tell St. Lucia what truly happened, what really went on in terms of impacts, what was impacts about, it should have been the St. Lucia Labour Party. And so we have not forgotten, I have it right here, the speech given by Dr. Kenny D. Anthony, Prime Minister, And I think the speech is dated, let me make sure I get the date, Sunday, March 8th, 2015. And the title of it was A Distressing Issue to Confront. Prior to that, the Prime Minister had addressed the nation, indicating that he would be bringing in a team to investigate a lot of things, investigate extrajudicial killings in St. Lucia, and indicating that, I think he said he had seen death list and all these kind of things. But the speeches are there for all of St. Lucian to see. So I thought perhaps maybe I can just give them a little something, because they did ask for an update on impacts. And so here is the update on impacts, St. Lucia. Last week, we had a press conference in St. Lucia. So all of you saw it. It was live. You had the U.S. ambassador who is assigned to St. Lucia. You had the Prime Minister of St. Lucia. We also had the Commissioner of Police. You had the Minister for National Security. And an update was given to St. Lucia on impacts. And the update in a nutshell from the U.S. ambassador was, we have been working with this government for the last 5 years. We have been negotiating with the Alan Chastanet administration. We have faith and we have trust and we have confidence in the leadership of Alan Chastanet as the Prime Minister of St. Lucia. This administration has gotten the confidence and the support of the U.S. government. Clearly, like my friends would say, even Jim Coco Snow, God rest his soul, can see that there is a level of trust and there is a level of confidence that the United States government has in this administration. After years of negotiation, I can certainly tell you, because I work in the office of the Prime Minister, every single opportunity that the Prime Minister of St. Lucia has had to speak to anybody within the United States government, the first topic on his agenda has been the Leahy restrictions that has been placed on the policemen and women of St. Lucia. That has been at the forefront, the back, the side, everywhere. That has been an issue that has been near and dear to this Prime Minister and to this administration. And thankfully, the Prime Minister and his administration has shown the U.S. government that they are trustworthy. They have shown the U.S. government that they are on the right track. They have shown the U.S. government that they are doing the right thing, St. Lucia. You asked for an update on impacts. That's the update on impacts. They have shown by the actions, because to date, from 2016 to now, St. Lucia, no visa of St. Lucian police officers or government minister has been revoked. None. That is the confidence that the U.S. government has in this administration. And so they came and they announced to St. Lucia that after review and after speaking to the hierarchy of the government, because that is not the decision of the ambassador. I hope you understand that. The ambassador is just the messenger. She is the representative of the United States government. And when a representative of the United States government comes and make a particular statement, she's making that statement on behalf of the United States of America. The same way when the United States of America made a statement by revoking particular ministers of government visas. They were making a statement the same way they've made this statement here last week to say that we have confidence in you, we trust you, we know that you are doing the right thing. And even prior to that, St. Lucia would remember, they had also provided additional support to the office of the DPP. They had provided equipment to the office of the DPP to assist the office of the DPP in doing the right thing. So St. Lucia, we are on the right track. And if anybody is asking for an update on impacts, the update that we are giving you on impacts, it did not come from the St. Lucia government. It came from the government of the United States of America to say, we have reviewed the matter. We have seen where you're going, and we believe that you are on the right track, Honorable Alan Chastanet, and so we have decided that at this time we will remove the restrictions on certain departments of your national security to allow them to benefit and to participate in training being provided by the United States of America. Clap, 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 clap. That's good news. That's good news. But you know what, St. Lucia? I still saw some of them, you know, on Facebook. They were still trying to spin it and to say, well, what about the others? What about this and what about that, etc., etc. I mean, for once, can you just be happy for St. Lucia? For once, did we get a statement from the opposition who orchestrated this whole thing to begin with? You can come and say, may you pass a fini. They were the ones who orchestrated this whole thing when they were in opposition, just to win government. Leo even gouvernement Shaila te tolu yo pa te supporte. But Alan Chastanet Mouche yo supporte Shaila. E ki sa delivery, e ki me te yate. That is what you call good governance, St. Lucia. That is what we should all be proud of. That we have a team led by a prime minister, that the United States government can have that level of confidence. And so, I want to ask you this question. Before we take a break, I want to ask you this question. Who do you think the United States government trusts at this time? Do you think they trust the leadership of this government? Or do you think they trust the leadership of the opposition? That is a question you should ask yourself. Do you think that the United States government trusts the leadership of the current opposition? We will take a break, and when we come back, perhaps we will take some of your calls and you will answer the question, who do you think the United States government trusts? I know the answer, you know the answer, but when we come back, we'll talk about it and we will fact check the Ange Jabet matter. Don't think I have forgotten about it. We come into it tonight as well. We'll be right back.
It's blazing and it's hot. Come join the United Workers' Party National Women's Arm as they present to you barbecue, grab and go, Global Fire, chicken $12, fish and pork $15 plus more. Friday, June 25th, outside Sky FM Studios, 2 p.m. onwards, drinks on sale. This is located conveniently at the Colony House, John Compton Highway. As I said, it's blazing hot. Barbecue, grab and go.
Shall you come and play with us, sir?
No, I don't want to play.
Why?
You know my uncle died and I cannot even go to the funeral. I just don't want to play.
But GVD was luck. GVD have it on TV and online. You can even watch it on your phone.
That's true. Let's go and watch it now.
In keeping with the social distancing of COVID-19, JVD TV channel 115 has now added television broadcast to its online coverage of funerals. COVID-19 is not a friend, it's not a citizen, and it's definitely not a family member. Call GVD TV at 726-9914 or 722-6542 to make arrangements for funeral services online and television viewing from the church to the cemetery.
Do you need to copy or print your document? Are you in need of insurance? Are you looking for office stationery? Stop. Yes, LMP Services on Clark Lane, View Fort has all the services you need. They open Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Or call 454-8757 or 721-8757 for affordable rates, reliable and effective customer service with a difference.
Okay, St. Lucia, welcome back. I got a lot of messages in terms of who do we think the government of the United States trust. I'm not going to tell you the answers that I got, but we will take some calls. We'll take our calls a little bit earlier tonight because I've also been accused. People keep telling me, you're not giving us enough time to call, So I'll give you a little more time to call tonight. But before we open the line, St. Lucia, remember I started my program tonight in terms of telling you that we'll be fact-checking. Occasionally, I want to fact-check some of the information that is being sent out there, because there are some people who have, over the years, they come with documents and they show you documents. And because they show you documents sometimes, you think that they are speaking the truth because they show you documents. But what I have learned, St. Lucia, over the last few years is that they show you documents, but they show you some documents. They pull and they pick and choose which ones they want. They sit down at their home, they concoct a story. And you know, for me, what is even more alarming sometimes, when you hear these people speak, they let you come in and say this and asulate. So you swear they are speaking the truth because of the way they twist it and they turn it, etc. They are not speaking the truth. They are twisting things because they don't like the government, they don't like Nancy, they don't like Chasney, they don't like this one, they don't like that one. And so they twist things in a particular way. St. Lucia, I have said consistently, and I continue to say, this is my message, has always been to the opposition. If you want people to support you, if you want to win the elections, because I know it's all about elections for you. It's not about people, it's not about care, it's not about concern. Every single thing that you think about is elections, voting, ring the bell now, elections. That's all you've cared about. You've never cared about the typical St. Lucian. You've never cared about what matters to the typical St. Lucian. All you see when you see a St. Lucian is a vote. And we know that. But in spite of the fact that when you see them is a vote you see, we want you to ensure that you give them the correct information, give them the factual information so that they can make their decision to follow you based on that. And so, for me, I say. So the last time I had to refute the claims by this particular talk host who claimed that the government had borrowed over $500 million in the name of COVID and for giving to the people and never gave the people money. I brought out the facts, I brought out the information, I show you where the money was borrowed, who it was borrowed from, what it was borrowed for, and how much was paid and what type of support was given to people. And so last week, Around 10 o'clock, my phone is going ping, 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 ping. I didn't bother with that. I went to bed. And so when I got up, I saw missed calls, messages, etc. And I'm like, what's the drama this time around? Because I know it's a drama every Tuesday night. And so I got, people sent me stories and this was being said. But what was concerning to a lot of St. Lucians is that this particular talk show host, wannabe representative in government, came out and accused the government of St. Lucia for acting illegally. And for me, St. Lucia, these are the things that irks me. These people, you know, they don't well, they think. Let me not say they don't think. They think. They are very deliberate. But they don't care when they make the allegations and they accuse the government of St. Lucia, how that impacts the entire country, you know. It's the same thing with impacts and ORC. When all the allegations were being made, when all accusations were being made, when names were being mentioned, they didn't care about the government of St. Lucia and the people of St. Lucia at the time. They only cared about themselves. And in this instance, this person doesn't care about you, the government, or anybody. All he cares about is himself and his vendetta. And so he's portraying documents and alleging that the government of St. Lucia acted illegally. Usa avocat, you should know better. You're a lawyer, you should know better. By coming out and making these false statements to the people of St. Lucia. And so St. Lucia, I get the story. And the gentleman started his publication by talking about the Dolphin Park, and they didn't want the Dolphin Park, and so forth. And one would assume that it is this government who instituted the Dolphin Park. C'est ici, ça va vrai, hein? I have the documentation here. Look, I have all of it. I have the documentation here to show you that in 2012, sorry, that Desmond Long, who was then parliamentary representative, all right, he was the parliamentary representative for Ancillary, wrote a letter to Kenny Anthony, an email to say that I know of these people and they want to build a dolphin park in Ancillary countries, in Anshabet and so forth. Kenny Anthony wrote back to him and told him that yes, he agrees to the project, etc. And then the government of the day, which was the Kenny Anthony administration, proceeded. And that is the question that I asked St. Lucia. A private company came to St. Lucia. They wanted to operate a dolphin park. It was called Dolphin Cove International. That was the name of the company. They wanted to operate a dolphin park. But guess what? They did not go to the owners of the land to say, okay, we've identified that land and we would like to purchase the land from you so that we could build our dolphin park, you know. They went to the government, and the government of St. Lucia, Kenny D. Anthony, proceeded to acquire private lands, people's lands in Anshabet. The land belonged to Chef Harry at the time. He went ahead and he acquired the land. All right, in 2013, 2014, they did the gazette, they gazetted it, they put all the things in place. Even a valuation was submitted in 2014. They took the man's land, they acquired it, so that, and this is what they acquired it for. They acquired it for future touristic development. That is what they acquired it for. All right, cabinet conclusion. The cabinet considered a memorandum dated May 27th, 2014, nous porté au gouvernement 2014, submitted by the Ministry of Physical Development, Housing and Urban Development, approved 2 publications in the St. Lucia Gazette of the declaration of acquisition of block and parcel number 037B95 and 96 for future touristic development. Yo pate même sav ki sa yo vle pou. Yo pate même ni an non pou lit. They went and acquired private lands for a company, a foreign company. Ek la fin yo ka vin do se nou ki eme foreign company. Nou pa jeme acquire private lands person set li si by foreign company, They did it. In 2014, look the cabinet conclusion, 340 of 2014. Ipa mouche zo sa. Set li si pate mouche zo sa. Mili. Ipa mouche sa pièce. But in 2014, Kenny Anthony administration as prime minister acquired the lands in Anjabet, and he was the one who said that the lands were acquired for future touristic development. He said that. We never said that. We never acquired this land. When we came in, the land was acquired already by Kenny Anthony. They just didn't pay the man for his land, but they acquired the land. So when you hear talk show host, wannabe politician, want to come into your homes, sit on your television and in your living room and give you false, untrue, wrong information, here's the cabinet conclusion that shows that in 2014, the then Labour administration acquired the lands in Anjabet for future touristic development. Nadema to Wasware. You cannot tell the people of St. Lucia or insinuate to the people of St. Lucia that it was this government who acquired the land. Everything was done. They had put it in the Gazette. They had approved the 2 publications in the Gazette, and they had acquired the man's land by June 2014. Fact. That is the fact. Amon di mwen es mwen fache. Mwen fache. St. Lucia, we cannot continue. If you're going to make a case based on fact. But don't make it seem that it was this administration that wanted land for Dolphin Cove. The issue of a Dolphin Cove or Dolphin Park under this administration came when we came in, when a company wanted to operate a dolphin water park at Pigeon Island. There was nothing to do with Anjabet St. Lucia. Sa pate nan rien pou fè ek Anjabet in Conneries. The company came to St. Lucia, to this administration, and said we would like to operate a dolphin park, which is a water park at Pigeon Island. And that is when the National Trust stated their objection. You had all kinds of run drama that was happening. I don't want to go into that. But this thing had nothing to do with this government. We came in and we inherited a property that was acquired by the previous administration according to Cabinet Memo 340 of 2014 that speaks to the government acquiring the land. The email from Desmond Long, Milila, Namucholi. Mr. Desmond Long sent an email to Kenny Anthony to say, hey boss, that. The email is dated September 9th, 2012. Dolphin Park for Conneries, that's the subject. Nothing to do with us. So don't tie this thing or try to tie this thing around the neck of this administration. And so what happened, St. Lucia? In 2014, a valuation was done. 2014, and the land was valued at $10.16 million. That was the valuation of the land at the time. Let me see if I can get it so I can show it to you. The land was valued at that price in 2014. And so this is what they were supposed to pay to the people when they acquired their lands. All right? That is what they were supposed to pay to the people when they acquired their land. We did not do that either. When we came into office, the matter was brought to the attention of this government. When the matter was brought to the attention of this government, the people who the land was acquired from came and said, you've acquired my land. It's been how many years now? We need to be paid for our land. We initiated another valuation of the land. And under our valuation, the land was valued at $9.4 million. So in 2018, the land was valued at $9.4 million. So it was valued lower than when it was valued under the Labour Party administration. That's a fact. And let me tell you something. You see this entire batch of documents that I have there? the person in question got all of that as well. Ipahen yon de yo fe whole copy file la bali. Yo bali whole file la. Munaka bali information, I bali whole file la. So he had all the information at his disposal. He deliberately chose not to. He deliberately chose not to give you the full information. But he had access to all that information. And so, St. Lucia, when I tell you that it's not everybody that come and they make sign of the cross and they call all, that had nothing to do with us. And then when it comes to the matter of him accusing or alleging that the government acted illegally, that is where I take offense. So we have a call. Let me take that call and then I will show you the document that shows that the government did nothing wrong. Let me take this call. Good evening, caller. Can you hear us? Oh, I don't think I can hear this caller. Caller, you need to call us on WhatsApp. I think this is for the WhatsApp. So try and call us on WhatsApp. Okay, but our lines are open, St. Lucia. If you wish to call based on what I have spoken about, some of the issues, we will be taking your calls. But when it comes to the issue or the matter of the owner of the land, St. Lucia, I have in my hand, because this person is also insinuating. We have another call. Let me just take that call. Good evening, caller. Thank you so much for calling Vibes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm hearing you clear.
Okay. Thank you so much for calling.
Yeah, I'm enjoying your show, and I'm happy that you came with those documents.
Right.
Now, there's a particular talk show host. Now, I'm going to set that record straight. In my opinion, you are helping us. But in my opinion, when people listening to him, I will say the name of his show. How can I lie to you? And that is the norm. Because repeatedly, this guy been misleading this country and the people all over the world by lies and lies and more lies. You know, and I'm happy with the evidence that you're bringing out. And it, I mean, you know, St. Lucians need to wake up now. And I know they're smelling the coffee. Because those guys are just desperate for power. You understand? And the power they really want, there's only one guy that's affecting them, you know. And that is the Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Alan Chastanet.
I agree with you, caller.
And the reason why I am saying that is because this is a man that has a vision for the country. And therefore, when he gets in there, he would not prove. And he shows St. Lucia and the world that he do what he has to do. Because the guy told you, give him just 3 years and he'll unfold his plan. And it's unfolding and the entire nation is seeing it. Now, you know, when people don't like somebody, they will look for all kinds of things to say about that individual. But the truth to the matter is, they all are failures. You understand? And that is the reason why I have to call his show. How can I lie to you? But I do not want to listen to a show. How can I lie to you? Because it's not anything of any substance or anything I could learn or, you know, I could take a taste from that. So in my opinion now, I am happy that you came with those documents and St. Lucian will see through him. How can I lie to you? Now those lies going to haunt him.
Yes, yes, it will, caller.
And I'm going to tell him and those people in Red the Hack that they will not get nowhere with that. Alan Chastanet, our Prime Minister, he didn't put himself there. He was elected by the people of the future. And they didn't handpick him and say, look, I will make you the Prime Minister. They went to the ballot box and he was elected and not selected. And that is killing, you know. This guy, how can I lie to you? That is killing him. And right now, I heard he was saying in a little motorcade, I don't know where he got those little Maji people that he had, and saying no richer, no labor. Crap! Crap! You. It's a democracy. People take and people put in.
I think, caller, we've all established that this person is just a bully. So you know, they just bully their way into everything. They threaten you. They don't know how to do things the right way. So they just come in, they just bulldoze everything, and they threaten you, and that's it.
Well, there's a God above. If he so believe in God, okay, and he have the faith, every show, Alan, go to Mikud North or Mikud South, contest the election. Go there.
Caller, I'll be honest with you. I've made that challenge to this particular individual a number of times, and you know why I've asked him to go there? He has family members there. He has a lot of family down south, Mikud area, and so forth. So come down. That's all I've always said to him. Come down to Mikud South. Come there. You have family there. You have friends there. You know them there. Come down.
Yeah, go down there and box Alan Champion. Go down there, go in the ring. You have support, you know. Let Alan give you that boxing jab, you know. And he didn't put himself there. And I am saying kudos to the Prime Minister. I give him maximum point for that security thing.
Yes, we have to. Yes, and so, caller, my question that I asked, who do you think the United States government trusts?
Let me tell you, the State Department is not a magic. You know.
That's right.
All those little guys, the Americans don't have time for that. You recall when George W. Bush was in power, and they went into Iraq, time of Saddam Hussein, to get rid of Saddam Hussein. I think CARICOM countries were making the view, and you know, we all know who they are, because they're going leftist. This country is not going leftist. And I hope the Americans and everybody in St. Lucia ain't that. We're not going leftist. George W. Bush won the Caribbean. It's either you in or you're out. You remember that, Nancy?
Yep, I remember.
We have to be careful. Those guys don't care about country. I care about country. And St. Lucia, we all have our relatives in the United States, Canada, okay, England. We better watch this thing careful. The United States is sending a signal. Do not let those politicians on the opposite side try to fool you. Because one day you may want to go overseas on a vacation, and because of politicians, they will hold us ransom. They will hold us ransom, and we have to know that. And those guys have to stop it. And I'm calling on Mr. Philip J. Pierre. And how can I lie to you? Stop this nonsense, man. Thank you very much, Nancy.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much. So, St. Lucia, with reference to the owner of the land, we have another call, but before I take that call, I just wanted to show you, because, again, the gentleman did not read to you or even show you that document. I have in my hand two sets of documents. One is a statutory declaration, and that statutory declaration is dated 12 October 2013. Ek moi just vle fè yo sav tout temps ça. Gouvernement nou pote la, hein? Just so you know. Just so you know. All that time, our government was not there. 12 October 2013. After the government had acquired the lands from Chef Harry, they wrote to him and they said to him, "Dear Mr. Joseph, we have acquired your lands, and so forth. We will be surveying it and making arrangements to pay you." Chef Harry responded to them and he sent a statutory declaration, and he said, "I, Edward Chef Harry Joseph of Chef Harry Drive, I confirm and acknowledge by deed of transfer executed by me on 11th October 2013 for valuable consideration, I transferred lands belonging to me and registered in the Registry of Lands as block and parcel 037B, parcels 95 and 96 to a company known as Gold Sky Investments. So they want you to think that this government purchased the land from a company called Gold Sky Investments because the owner of that, one of the directors of that company is a known friend of this government, because we're not ashamed to say it. The person is a lawyer, but he's a business person as well. But it was Kenny Anthony that acquired the man's land, not us. Nothing to do with us. And at the time, in 12 October 2013, Chef Harry signed a declaration to say that the land does not belong to me. He said, I have given permission to the purchaser to enter into possession of the lands. Accordingly, I have no further financial interest in the said lands, and should the lands be compulsory acquired prior to title being registered, because at the time they had registered the deed, but the title had not been given as yet. He said, should it be acquired prior to the title being registered in the name of the purchaser, I name and appoint the purchaser or its duly appointed representative as my agent for the purpose of dealing with the authorized officer. So Chef Harry rescinded. Look at St. Lucia. I want to show it to you. Okay, it's a statutory declaration by Chef Harry in 2013 when he said that he had already sold that land that was acquired by the Labour Party to a company called Gold Sky Investment. But you know what? They will run a story and they will report and make it seem as if this government had a conflict of interest and acquired lands belonging to somebody that is known to the government for his benefit, when it's them that do it. Yoki Fei. And that's the habit of the opposition. They do their things and they come back and accuse somebody else, always pointing fingers at you. They point one finger at you, not knowing that 4 fingers are pointing back at them. They did that. Gold Sky Investment wrote to them and say, hey, the land that you have acquired is mine. Chef Harry sent them a letter, to a statutory declaration to say, the land you have acquired is not mine, but it belongs to them. And even after Chef Harry died, St. Lucia, before I take that call, his lawyer, the gentleman who was responsible for the will or the estate of Chef Harry, he sent a statutory declaration as well after Chef Harry died. And he said in his declaration, he said that my name is Henry Fred Joseph of Cap Estate. I'm an attorney at law. I have known Mr. Edward Joseph, aka Chef Harry, deceased for many years. Prior to his death, I received instructions from the deceased to write down his will and last testament. And in these instructions pertaining to the assets, I understood to have had in his possession during his conversations with me on the matter of making his will. He says the deceased, as it relates to 2 separate parcels of land, namely Block 037B, parcels 95 and 96, which the deceased explained were the subject matter of a sale to Gold Sky Investments Inc. All right? His lawyer said that they sent a statutory declaration. And he said, accordingly, the lands were omitted from the deed of transmission in accordance with the laws governing the administration of estates in St. Lucia. So those lands did not form part of Chef Harry's estate. That's why his family never claimed the land, because they knew very well that the land was sold already. And in 2013, the government acquired the land that was sold. So you need to pay the people, but you pay. You would have to ask yourself the question, why did the government of the Kenny Anthony administration not pay the people when they acquired their land? Let me take this call. Good evening, caller. Thank you for calling Vibes.
Good evening, Nancy.
How are you?
I'm very fine.
Okay, I'm trying to just increase a little bit on your volume. Go ahead.
Nancy, for what you're saying, I agree, and I know of what you're speaking about, because I sit in a capacity to know that these documents exist. But, you know, one of the things with the Labour Party, They have done so many things that they have even forgotten most of the things that they did when they were in power.
You think do you think they've forgotten, caller? They have not forgotten, not one little bit. Don't fool yourself to think they've forgotten. You're gonna tutsayofe. They remember well.
A liar lies so much that he even forgot the first story that he told.
Maybe that's the case. Maybe that's the case.
So now let me just go a little further. You and I can speak Creole. And I want you to explain to me, what does panyo mean?
What is what?
Pandem. What does it mean?
Lokapan mun kuma gacho muni.
Oh, but they're watching the Prime Minister call the Prime Minister a white man. But now they come to them every kind of thing, pan them. And people following them with that pandem kind of business. They bring in fun to show it's fun, they knock in. But they actually say in the Creole language that they're going to hang people.
But it's not they hanging people, that's what they're talking about.
But that's where the violence begins.
Of course.
If this government believes that they're going to curb violence by just putting more police on the street and doing all kind of things, violence has to be dealt with, not only the government in power, but the opposition as well.
Mm-hmm.
And if the opposition is preaching violence, how could this government stop violence in this country?
But Kola, I am not too sure that the opposition cannot preach violence, because I think it's the only language that they know. Do you think they know differently?
No, but I'm saying, if you're gonna say a new labor with the same old labor boys, so do something different. Don't come with the same old things and expect a different result.
I agree.
So that's all they know. They know violence. They know to threaten persons. They know to intimidate persons, and that's how they thrive. That's what they believe will get them into power.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, the beauty of this thing is that elections is pretty soon, and we all know it.
Right.
The results at the poll is going to send them a signal that we don't want you to come here and talk the kind of papi show you used to talk. It's not a new labor, because the labor is the same old fellas with the same old ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing has changed. A bunch of new boys come on board with the same old techniques and tactics, thinking that they can make a difference. And that's not going to surprise anybody. That would make no difference. When you watch people like Richard Frederick tell you no Richard Frederick, no labor, I would like for them to bring him in this back. Because the same fate that UWP went through 2011, 2016,
Mm-hmm.
is the same thing. Richard might win his seat. But definitely the Labour Party is going to lose elections, because nobody wants Richard to represent them on the government.
Huh.
And that's the harsh reality.
Well, Kola, I think that is a choice perhaps the St. Lucia Labour Party will have to make. But I really think it...
No, I'm not making that choice for them, you know. I don't want to be in it because I'm not Labour. I've never been Labour. David went up. David was my very close friend. I did not support David when he went up as an SLP, and he was a very close family friend.
Mm-hmm.
And I voted for UWP because that's what I am, that's what I have maintained, and that's what I will continue to be. So none of my friends, and I want those who know me, my name is Sean Robertson, those who know me, if you think you want a vote from me and you go for Labour Party, my brother, I will not support you. I'm not supporting nobody that go for Labour, not my mother, not my father, not my brother, not my sister. Anybody that go for Labour, you can count me out.
Mm-hmm.
You go for UWP, I will be in your corner, my brother. I will support you. Ezekiel Joseph has done things in Babuno that I have never seen in my years in Babuno.
And that's not the first time, Caller. I mean, just to segue a little bit. In his previous term, when Ezekiel Joseph represented Babuno under previous UWP administration, I'm sure you remember they used to call him Kekel Bousquet. And that was because of the level of work Ezekiel had done. Infrastructural work, human resource development work, the level of work that Ezekiel had done in that constituency that they had nicknamed him that. So Ezekiel has proven time and time again that he's a worker. Trust me.
No, but even when Ezekiel was in football and he was in every other thing, he was a worker, you know. Ezekiel has never been somebody to be lazy or sluggish.
Mm-hmm.
He has always been a worker. But the people from Babuno decided that 2 birds in the bush is better than one in hand. And I'm hoping, and I'm saying to them, because I'm from the constituent, I'm saying to them, do not worry when people come and tell you, oh, Ezekiel, stop the road there, I'll bring it to your doorstep. That is something that can happen automatically. They have proven that they could not do it. The amount of work Ezekiel had started, if they had just finished 3 of those projects, that would have been marvelous. They did nothing. So don't come and support Labour Party. Even if you support in Labour Party, do not support Labour Party because you want to support Labour Party. Watch what Ezekiel has done and ask yourself, has that not been enough to make me just give him a vote whether I support Labour Party. Because a lot of brilliant work has been done in Barbados. And you know, we speak a lot of our candidates who support us, but I am saying it's not just Ezekiel. It's a complete team. Because all of them who have worked in their constituency.
For sure, for sure.
The Prime Minister has spearheaded all those things. Because he's Minister of Finance. He has to get the money for those guys to do those projects in their constituency. So it's a team effort. So if you don't like Ezekiel, or maybe you don't like Spider, or you don't like one of the ministers, go and vote for the candidate that's in your constituency. But look at it that you're voting for the team. You are voting more than just the candidate.
Yeah. You're voting for team. And Kola, I think as well, in St. Lucia, we need to understand as well that we are voting for leadership. It is very, very critical for us to understand that. And that is why I asked the question, who do you think one of our greatest allies, which is the United States of America, and some people might want to say, well, Kidaski USA, Kidaski America, this, that, and the other. The point is that America, internationally, worldwide, is still seen as the #1 country that resolves issues, that mostly everything in the world revolves around the United States. So we're just a speck, like a dot. So who are we? We need allies and we need big friends like the United States. Everybody going, when we go, you see people going in droves to the US Embassy to get a visa. United States. So let's not fool ourselves. Some of us don't want to go, that's fine. But we need allies. And in an ally like the United States, which leader, based on what's been happening, especially these last couple of months, which leader do you think the US trusts?
Nancy, I want to go even a step further. Because you remember we had some students in Venezuela during the time Venezuela was going through their bad times, right?
Right.
And we had great difficulty getting them out of Venezuela.
Yep, I remember.
But when we imposed the visa sanctions on Venezuela, the Labour Party came out in drones.
Yep.
They do not support that. So let's move America out of the equation for a minute. Look at you want to align yourself with Venezuela. Venezuela is looking for a currency.
But well, it's not a 1-2 caller. They have aligned themselves with Venezuela, because remember, Venezuela was part of the laptop program that they were boasting about. Venezuela didn't have sufficient to feed or even take care of its people in its country, but there we had an administration who was supportive of Venezuela, and Venezuela was providing them laptops. And remember the Petro-Caribe deal as well. Don't forget that. So it's not that they want to; they have already clearly drawn the lines. That their bread is buttered on the side of Venezuela.
So that's where we go in solutions. That's where you want to go. I mean, while they may give us education and they may give us all kind of things that they want to give, but is that where we want to align ourselves? So when we think, don't just think of policies that have been set by the UWP or these things. Ask the people you support as an SLP. Ask them, where do you see ourselves? Are we going to align with Venezuela? Is that the direction you want to go? Are you going to take troops to America? These are the kind of things. And let me tell you something. When Kenny Anthony went to America to tell them about the impacts and all of that, he knew well what he was doing. He was setting up St. Lucia for America to get vexed first, for him to have a reason to bring in Venezuela, because America did not want to take us on.
Okay.
So people don't just look at it as, oh, well, America giving us aid. He was setting up St. Lucia to put us in that position. And remember, these are the same set of fellas with that Grenada coup and all them kind of things.
Yep.
These are the same alliances, you know. So
and Kola, that goes back to my question to you. Do you think that the Labour Party understands any language except for violence? Just look at their history, all their involvement. Every single thing that you've spoken about speaks to what?
Well,
a historical background of violence.
You can win two ways. You can win calm and timid, or you can win violently. And even when they win, they're still violent.
Well, thank you so much for calling, caller. We have a few more calls to take tonight. Okay,
Enjoy
thanks. All righty, thank you. Yes, St. Lucia. So when I got a lot of persons telling me, oh, how you saying that? How you saying that? Show us the evidence. Where Kenny acquired the land? I showed it to you. What say you now? Good evening, caller. Thank you so much for calling Vibes. How are you doing this evening?
Good, my dear.
Okay, do you want to answer my question before you make your contribution? Who do you think the United States government trust in leadership in St. Lucia?
I don't trust the administration.
Okay.
That goes without no doubt.
And why do you say that, caller?
But they've seen that the emphasis, everything put in place, you know, to try and get things going right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But what I want to go back a number of years. Okay?
Right.
Where I see the SLT, especially with Kenny Anthony and his cabinet or whatever it is.
Yeah, caller, just listen to me in your phone. Don't listen on your device.
No, I listen on my phone.
Okay.
Okay. Remember when in time of when Tom Chu, we had a unique opportunity of creating a new emphasis whereby Tom Chu and the Taiwanese government were giving the 17 constituencies $1 million to just to do things for everybody, and these guys refuse to take the money.
I remember that, caller. They deprived it's not they refused to take the money. They deprived the constituents of their constituency who elected them to represent them. Yeah. They deprived on their own personal, I don't even know that if that was a principle. They deprived the people of their constituency that money.
Yeah, because they said that you have to put it in a consolidated fund.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, one of the antagonists was, what's his name? The guy, right now I hear in a program there. But he's talking about consolidated funds. You have to put in a consolidated fund. You know what happened? These guys refused to take the money, but they were able to say who did. They say Janine Compton used her money wisely, all kind of things. So they say Marcus did not. Okay, they say Richard did. The same Richard here, head up. But they never did anything. I remember, I think in North Viewfort.
Yeah.
I think you took the money, then you did the IT center or whatever or something so.
Mm-hmm.
And they made noise about it. And through them fellas not taking the money, the program just stopped.
Mm-hmm.
If they are taking it, you have continued. These guys have no foresight, because that was something you could have. That was a first in the world where a country could have seen two parties, 17 constituencies getting everything done for their people.
Kola, I think the Labour Party has some principles that some of us don't understand, because up to a day like today, nobody can explain to me. I have a lot of friends in the Labour Party. When I ask them, they're just laughing at me. They tell me, guys, leave me alone. But nobody can explain to me what is the rationale for the Labour Party not acknowledging the Governor General. And so every time the Governor General allegedly is in a space or has to make a speech somewhere, they walk out. What is it? Can you explain that to me? Do you understand why they do that?
So just okay. Andrew Antoine was the guy who brought the affirmative action at Northeast, the time of George Orleman. But going back to the whole thing of the Senate, I mean, that was a unique opportunity whereby it was real governance. Whoever on the governing party and the opposition coming together and doing things for the constituencies. Now, here's something, Merton Musaka did well. He passed there and he hear well how fishermen saying right now they have to go and sell their fish. Musa obli le Fishes Corporation la come probleme later la. Okay? I never know no fisherman gonna sell his fish. I know fishermen used to sell their fish to people.
And people would go back and sell the fish. But it's it's just short-term memory. Maybe as a previous caller said that they have, but under the Labour Party, in terms of the fishermen in the fisheries complex, do you remember the many times fishermen went on strike? They were on television 6 months. 6 mois, you pay fisheries complex. And time again, under Kenya, and let me not say Kenya, under Musa, because he was the minister, responsible for fisheries. Fishermen were not being paid. Ou kwa se fishermen na se peche a oublié ça. Ma kwa yo pièce a oublié ça. 6 months people were threatening, their bills were not paid, their home was not paid, fuel bills were not paid, etc. And time again it happened. We have not forgotten that. Depuis ki jou wè pièce fishermen vin ale MTV yo ka strike ke bo hen la ha yo. Depuis ki jou? So
about pig farmers kadi apres yo vle abattoir pour stopper cochon yo. Depuis que pig farmers a jamais debout stopper cochon yo.
Mais moi sa pig farmer am color. He hani about 19 years moi cochon. Ni moi ni ma oui ma heme debout van viane. So ma have kill pig farmers musa pale bay. Ki di sa but no ba heme debout van viane. La toujours ni a ready market pour van viane.
But Nancy, one thing
la ni de la nou pa sa même supply.
One thing I want you to do for me, I'm not too good with Hansard and things so, but I want you to do a little research for me with regards to Kenny Anthony's contribution to the airport redevelopment project there. Because I remember when in 2011, when Kenny came in, he said the reason why they wanted to redevelop the airport was just to get the airport, just to get the seat from him. That's why they decided to do that project.
Just to get the what from him?
The seat from him.
The tip?
Yeah, because the airport did not need no improvement, nothing.
I can't. Somebody told me that he had said that. I don't want to say yes that he did say that, but somebody before you did tell me. I don't know if it was in Parliament or somewhere else where he had said that the airport did not need to be redeveloped to the extent we had proposed.
But then again, Alva Baptiste, when Stephenson King and them brought the proposal to Parliament and things so. Alva Baptiste was saying about how can St. Lucia be a hub? How can St. Lucia be a hub when St. Vincent was developing the airport at the same time? As the Flobo lose election and they came in, if you go back in hindsight, you'll check how many times Alva Baptiste praised the airport for the whatever PPP or whatever.
Yeah. Color, that's a typical. Sa wat kadi an tuap, se pa sa y kadi le yon fetay kay la. Oui, sa hodia yo kadi yo bay pis yo opposition. Bay la yo kadi yo oppose yo opposition. Ko yo to gouvernement. Même ba la yo oppose la yo ka fay. Airport la sou te koute moi dernière fois moi te ni show moi. Même design airport la yo di ki te to gwan ite di cité dat la. Ou sav la yo to gouvernement. Yo paye ak yo gen design airport la.
Oui.
Même design la nou te fait, la king te la. Ek yo bay tout bagay ki pa te bon. La yo to gouvernement. Yo gen design ek se même design sa ay nou ni ka servi ya. Sa wat ka di an top, se pa sa y ka di an fetay kay. Yo to hypocrite.
I remember I was saying how when he came into governance, how the hub, in his presentation, he must say hub about 50 times.
Anyway, thank you, caller. Thank you for listening. All right. Have a good night.
Yeah, you too.
All right. Yes, caller. We're running out of time, St. Lucia. It's going up to 10 o'clock. But I just wanted to deal with one final matter with reference to the Anjabet land, which the talk show host did not tell you. And when he mentioned the fact that the Cabinet of Ministers acted illegally because they paid the wrong person, I read you the two statutory declarations, the two letters to show that the fact is that the land did not belong to Chef Harry because Chef Harry had already sold that land from 2013 to Gold Sky Investment. And so what happened during the time, based on the documentation, because I don't have time to show you all of it, but when we end the show, I'm just going to give you advance notice if you want to stay on just for a little while. When we end the show, I did an entire interview with all the documentation, the process step by step, year by year of what transpired with the land. I will ask the team here to play that as I end the program, and maybe that will give you a better appreciation of what exactly transpired with the land, and that will show you that this really had nothing to do with us. We did not acquire the land. We inherited the land being acquired, and all this government did was proceeded to pay the persons who owned the land. That's all that transpired. We did not acquire the land from Gold Sky. We did not buy the land from Gold Sky. That was done already. Here's the cabinet. There's the Gazette. Sorry, again, because it was gazetted. This is a copy of the Gazette when they went out and acquired the land as well. St. Lucia. The Gazette is dated. There's two. It has to be gazetted consecutively. So Tuesday, July 22nd. And Monday, July 20th. That's the twice when they gazetted it and they actually went out and acquired the land. And so what transpired was in May of 2019, when the matter was brought before the cabinet did not have access to all this information at the time as to who the land belonged to. Cabinet said, you know what? Put the land back in the name of the legal owner, who was Chef Harry, and when we are satisfied, when everything that you have brought everything to satisfy and to settle the matter, then we will deal with that. And so that is why the land was put back in the name of Chef, because in May 2019, Cabinet asked, put the land back in its rightful owner and sort out this matter. Tell me who really is the owner of the land, and then we will proceed. And so the final Cabinet conclusion that my friend showed you, whereas Cabinet agreed that the information was provided, they were satisfied that the land belonged to Gold Sky Investment. Cabinet said, okay, pay Gold Sky for the land. This is how much we will pay it. But at the bottom of the Cabinet conclusion, it also said that Cabinet rescinded Cabinet conclusion 27th May 2019, meaning that Cabinet was saying, okay, we had asked for you to put the land back in the name of Chef. Now we're saying we rescind that conclusion, put the land back in the rightful owner, which is the Crown, because we are satisfied that Chef had sold that land. And so when my friend was quick to come out and to show documents, planning was still in the process of transferring the land back to the Crown. And so they had not done it as yet, so he didn't get that document. And so he going all over, oh, they acted illegally, they acted ultra-virus. Not so, St. Lucia, because the Cabinet conclusion was very clear to compensate the owner, but it also was very clear in saying we rescind this Cabinet conclusion, and so the land can now be put back in the name of the Crown. And so I want to assure you, St. Lucia, the land has been put back in the name of the Crown. Everything has been done above board, and so there is nothing illegal about what Cabinet did. We'll take this final call, and then we'll end our show tonight. Good evening, caller. You're our final lucky caller. Thank you so much for calling Vibe.
Hello, Nancy. Good night.
Good night.
I must say you have a toothpick. You know that?
What does that mean?
It means that you really investigated thoroughly.
I tried my best.
Yeah, but that was a good job. But one of the things I would like to ask, with a government of transparency that they always speak about, why is it the National Trust was not informed? The National Trust had no say. The National Trust didn't even know. How comes? Where was the transparency in that? The National Trust had no idea that was going on.
I'll give you a hint.
To know now that we were always the last people to know.
I'll give you a hint, caller. To be fair, once the information is gazetted, this is public information. But you know, some people only mind the business when one particular government is in power.
I noticed.
So this was gazetted, but you know they didn't take it on. The trust that you speak about never took it on. Even in his budget address, because I think we had addressed that prior. I stand corrected, but it may be in 2013 or 2014. Dr. Kenny Anthony, in his budget address, mentioned in his address that they were going to build a dolphin park in Anjabet in Canris. So it was not a secret. He had spoken about it. But you see, some people only mind our business and they only object to certain things when a particular government is in power.
Yes,
That's all I'll say about
I noticed that.
Yep.
But I thoroughly enjoyed this evening, and I hope I listen to you again.
Next week promises to be a bit more exciting. I'll be doing a little bit more fact checking next week.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Colin. Have a good
Bye-bye.
evening. Thank you. Okay, St. Lucia, we've come to the end of the show. We do not have any more time. They're not giving me extra time tonight. It's 10:05. But I'm hoping, St. Lucia, that you were sufficiently informed, and I tried my best to present to you the facts and the information. And as we leave tonight, I just want to advise you and to remind you that some people do believe that if you repeat a lie often enough, it becomes the truth and that people will believe you. And so I want to advise you, broaden your horizon. Read for yourself. Research for yourself. When information is presented to you, ask yourself a few more questions and try to ensure that you can come to the correct conclusions. Thank you so much for listening to Vibes tonight. We had a really good time. I hope next week is going to be more exciting. Have a good evening, St. Lucia, and stay safe. Thank you. Good night. It has been brought to the attention of the Office of the Prime Minister that a media house has been carrying a story alleging that there has been some illegality in the Cabinet of Ministers making compensation to a landowner of a compulsory acquisition. It is unfortunate that those statements have been made, and the Office of the Prime Minister wishes to state categorically that the statements are false, and so we wish to clarify the process and the procedure that was used by the Cabinet of Ministers in determining compensation for the legal owner of the land that was compulsory acquired. I must also assure the general public that matters, especially when it comes to land acquisition, are not matters that the Cabinet of Ministers determine on their own, but the process is that the Department of Physical Planning, they would prepare what is called a cabinet memo. And in that memo, they would put in all the justification for the acquisition of the property, the whom, the when, the why, and they would also put the rationale. They would also attach a valuation to it, and they would make recommendations to the Cabinet of Ministers. And based on the documentation presented and the recommendations made by that cabinet memo, by the technical people of that ministry, then the Cabinet of Ministers will take a decision whether to accede to the recommendation or whether to send the memo back seeking further clarification. So let's look at the facts of that compulsory land acquisition so you can clearly understand the role of the Cabinet of Ministers in this matter. In August of 2013, a memo was presented to the Cabinet of Ministers to acquire land in Anse-Jambet. And so I have Cabinet Conclusion number 491 of 2013. So in the year of 2013, the Cabinet of Ministers issued a notice to acquire lands for future development. And it says that Cabinet considered a memorandum to acquire lands, parcels number 037B95 and 96 for future touristic development at Anse-Jambet in the quarter of Anse-Laret. And so the first gazette was made on Monday, September 30th, 2013 with a notice of intent to acquire lands. Subsequent to that, on the 23rd of June 2014, Cabinet Conclusion number 340 of 2014, the Declaration of Land Acquisition for Future Touristic Development at Anse-Jambet in the quarter of Anse-Laret, cabinet went ahead and they acquired the property. And so a memo was presented to the Cabinet of Ministers, and the cabinet considered the memo on the 27th of May 2014, and they went ahead and issued the second notification to acquire the land in Anshabet. And so by Gazette dated Monday 22nd of July 2014, the Gazette made the declaration that government had acquired the lands. Schedule 1 and Schedule 2 speaks to the block and parcel number, and the second publication to say that cabinet or the government had acquired the land was done on Monday 28th July 2014, Schedule 1 and Schedule 2, where it speaks to the declaration of acquisition of land. So we can clearly see by July 20th, 2014, government had gone ahead, based on the memo presented to them, to acquire the lands in Anshabet. Once government had gone ahead and acquired the land, they went through the next step, which is writing to the rightful owner of the land, indicating that they had acquired the land and that they would be surveying the land and be preparing for compensation. So on October 15th, 2013, the Ministry of Physical Development wrote to Mr. Edward Joseph, everybody knows him as Chef Harry. On October 15th, 2013, the government of St. Lucia via the Ministry of Physical Development wrote to him indicating that the government of St. Lucia is in the process of acquiring Block 037B, parcels 95 and 96 belonging to you for the purpose of future touristic development at Anshabet. It says the second publication of the notification of intention to acquire the subject portions of land was published in the St. Lucia Gazette on October 8th, 2013. This was done in accordance with Section 4 of the Lands Act. As a result, the ministry will be carrying out all preliminary surveys or investigations on the subject. Consequently, compensation will be paid accordingly. So Chef Harry was written to, indicating we have acquired your land, we will survey it, and we will prepare to pay you accordingly. 15th October 2013. A response was sent to the Department of Physical Development by Amicus Law Chambers on 20th January 2014, a few months later, and Amicus indicated we act herein on behalf of Gold Sky Investment Limited. Pursuant to a deed of transfer executed between the parties on 11th October 2012, our client purchased from Mr. Edward Joseph certain land situated at Anshabet in the quarter of Ansleray. Our client has duly lodged the deed at the Registry of Land by way of caution, instrument number 2053/2013, which was duly registered on 22nd May 2013. And so Amicus Law Chamber wrote to the Ministry of Physical Development indicating that the land does not belong to Mr. Joseph, Edward Joseph, but it belongs to the client Gold Sky Investment. Subsequent to that, they also presented to the Department of Physical Planning the deed of the transfer of land that they had registered, and I have it right here as well. On the 12th of October 2013, a statutory declaration by Edward Chef Harry Joseph indicates that I hereby confirm and acknowledge that by deed of transfer executed by me on 11th October 2013 and for valuable consideration, I transferred lands belonging to me and registered in the Registry of Lands as block parcels 037B, 95 and 96 to the company known as Gold Sky Investments Limited. A true copy of the said deed is exhibited here and marked A. As such, I have given permission to the purchaser, who is Gold Sky Limited, to enter into possession of the said lands. Accordingly, I have no further financial interest in the said lands, and I further give all consents necessary to permit the purchaser to make the necessary application to develop the land. And so, Amicus Limited presented to the Department of Physical Planning this statutory declaration from Chef Harry, where he indicated that he has rescinded all rights and privileges to that land because he has sold the land. On February 2014, Amicus Limited presented a valuation report, and I want you to remember the timelines. We are still in 2014, which was under the previous administration. Amicus Limited presented a valuation report to the Department of Physical Planning for the value of the land that was acquired, and the valuation for the 7.78 acres of land was estimated at $10.16 million. Subsequent to the government receiving this, they went silent. And then in 2018, the chief surveyor of the Department of Physical Planning, he went ahead and did his own valuation on behalf of the government, and the valuation he did returned a value of $9.4 million. So the previous valuation done by the owner of the land was $10.16 million, but when the government did their own valuation, they came to a value of $9.4 million, and that was January 22nd, 2018. So you would see that the valuation by the government was less than the valuation by the owner of the property. In March 9th, 2018, the Attorney General Chambers wrote to the Department of Physical Planning because the owner of the land was seeking compensation, and there was an opinion given by the Attorney General's Chambers to the Department of Physical Planning. And I just want to read to you the recommendation by the Attorney General in that matter. The recommendation says, it is therefore recommended that the holders of all encumbrances and persons who have lodged caution in respect to the properties be notified of the acquisition pursuant to Section 8(1) of the Act. And it also says, Gold Star has provided documentation purportedly signed by Mr. Joseph stating that he has relinquished all interest in the properties to Gold Star. Since Mr. Joseph is now deceased, it is recommended that the executor administrator of his estate be asked to confirm that the properties no longer form part of Mr. Joseph's succession. So what the AG was saying is, to finalize and to confirm that the land actually belongs to Gold Star, we need the person who was responsible for the estate of Chef Harry, who is his lawyer, who executed his will and his estate, to verify and to say that is the case. That was March 9th, 2018. Subsequent to that, on the 10th of March, 2021, the lawyers of Chef Harry wrote to the department, and the lawyer gave a statutory declaration, and I can give you what the statutory declaration says. It says, I, Henry Fred Joseph of Cap Estate, that I am an attorney at law practicing with St. Lucia. I have known Mr. Edward Joseph, aka Chef Harry, for many years. Prior to his death, I received instructions from the deceased to write down his last will and testament. And these instructions pertain to the assets which the deceased understood to have had in his possession during his conversations with me on the matter of making his will. The sale of the property was also subject of conversation between the deceased and I following being instructed in his will. In particular, I was informed by the deceased as it related to two separate parcels of land, namely Block 0037B, 95 and 96, the lands which the deceased explained were the subject matter of a sale to Gold Sky Investment Inc. And it says, to the best of my knowledge, understanding and belief, there was an understanding among the executors and myself that the lands could not have been viewed as forming part of the deceased estate, since the deceased had previously sold the lands to Gold Sky Investments Inc. Accordingly, the lands were omitted from the deed of transmission in accordance with the laws governing the administration of estates in St. Lucia. So the lawyers for Chef Harry also confirmed that the land was sold to Gold Sky Investment Limited and that this land did not form part of Chef Harry's estate.
And so subsequent to that, in the Cabinet of Ministers, trying to determine and ensuring that they did the right thing, they asked that until that matter is finally settled, perhaps what should be best is to transfer the land back in the name of the legal owner, which was Chef Harry, whilst that matter was sorted out. So on April 6, 2021, the Cabinet of Ministers recommended to transfer the land back in the name of the legal owner before we can make any compensation. So Cabinet number 478 of 2019 speaks to transferring. Cabinet agreed that any further compensation which may be required to bring full and final settlement of this matter be agreed upon after determination of the rightful owner of the property and any conditions at the time of acquisition. So Cabinet, in all its deliberation, has been going for the right process in ensuring that the right person be paid. Subsequent to this, a memo was then presented to the Cabinet of Ministers with all the documents again from Amicus Limited, the letter from the lawyers, etc. And so Cabinet agreed on April 19th, 2021, and I want the public to understand this is the story. On April 19th, 2021, the Cabinet of Ministers, having reviewed all the documents that I spoke about, the letters from Chef Harry, the letters from his estate and his lawyers, etc., Cabinet agreed to the following: that block and parcel number 037B 95 and 96, situated as Anjabet, quarter of Anslare, for the purpose of facilitating touristic and other economic investment, Cabinet agreed that first priority for investment be given to the St. Lucia National. So 2, compensation to Gold Sky Investment Inc. in the sum of $9.4 million. And if you remember, the valuation was for $9.4 million. However, there was interest that was also accumulated on the value of the land based on negotiation with Gold Sky Limited. They agreed to forgo the interest and only to accept payment for the value of the land. Point number 3, the breakdown of the payment of the acquisition was as follows. 1, Invest St. Lucia will pay the sum of $3 million in consideration for receipt of the vested property. So what this says is part of the property would be vested into Invest St. Lucia, and they would pay $3 million for that property. The government of St. Lucia would pay the sum of $3 million in cash to the owners of the property, and the balance of the $3.4 million will be paid through the issuance of bonds. And so the estate was, the Gold Sky Limited was also going to receive $3.4 million in bonds. Point 4 also state that the settlement of other parties' interest in the block and parcel number, namely Indian Revenue, National Insurance, First National Bank, and Caribbean Banking Corporation, be dealt with directly by Gold Sky Investment and the estate of Edward Joseph. And the final point in the Cabinet conclusion state, Cabinet further agreed to rescind Cabinet conclusion number 478 of 27th May 2019. And conclusion 478 of 27th May spoke to Cabinet asking for the land to be vested back in the name of Chef Harry. And so in this Cabinet conclusion, the Cabinet is saying that we rescind that decision, meaning that the land should be vested back in the name of the Crown. And so subsequent to that, on April 26, the Department of Planning proceeded to make the necessary arrangement to execute the Cabinet conclusion. And so they wrote to Amicus indicating that we will be paying you for the land. Here is the breakdown of the payment. They did that on the 27th of May. They also wrote to Invest St. Lucia, Roderick Cherry, seeking compensation for the $3 million and indicating that a portion of the land will be vested into them. And the last thing that the Department of Planning had to do was to rescind the Cabinet conclusion and to put the land back in the name of the Crown. And so at the time of the story breaking out with the media houses, the Department of Physical Planning had not transferred the land back in the name of the Crown. And that is why the reporter was reporting that the land was still vested in the name of Chef Harry and that the wrongful person was being paid. But it was only a matter of timing where documents were being circulated before allowing for the final process to take place where the Department of Physical Planning would transfer the land back in the name of the Crown. That has since been done, and so we have the document showing that the land has been vested back in the name of the Crown. And so I want to state to the public that this is a lot to do about nothing, that the Cabinet of Ministers always go through the proper process. They ask the necessary questions based on recommendations by the technical people, and these technical people are the ones to execute the decision of Cabinet. Thank you.
Shall you come and play with us, sir?
No, I don't want to play.
Why?
You know my uncle died and I can't even go to the funeral. I just don't want to play.
But GVD have us luck. GVD have it on TV and online. You can even watch it on your phone.
That's true. Let's go and watch it now.
In keeping with the social distancing of COVID-19, JVD TV channel 115 has now added television broadcast to its online coverage of funerals. COVID-19 is not a friend, it's not a citizen, and it's definitely not a family member. Call GVD TV at 726-9914 or 722-6542 to make arrangements for funeral services online and television viewing from the church to the cemetery.